Knowing Vishwanatha Swami's greatness, I kept searching for him after I came to Ramanasramam in 1960, but he was nowhere to be found. I could not find his whereabouts. One day I was walking on the streets of Chennai when an old friend of mine met me and told me in great joy, "Ganesa, Anna, I am so happy because I am just returning from a meeting with Vishwanatha Swami." My joy knew no bounds. "Vishwanatha Swami is here?" I asked incredulously. My friend provided me the address and I immediately went there. He was living in his brother's rented house. When I walked in, he was in the kitchen, cooking for the family. I prostrated before him right there in the kitchen. I cried, "Swami, is cooking your job? Is not your place in the abode of Bhagavan? Is not Ramanasramam your home?" He replied, "Ganesan, what is wrong in being a cook? We need only a little food for the stomach. That I get here by working here. The inner food Bhagavan has already given." I begged him to come back to the ashram, and he did. Serving Vishwanatha Swami was one of the most fulfilling functions in my life. Vishwanatha Swami's presence actually enhanced the sweet fragrance of the ashram's ambience. Slowly, other devotees came back. In those days, before the large hall was built, Bhagavan Samadhi was merely a thatched shed with an open space in front. I used to sleep there on a mat on the floor. Some nights I would feel the poke of a walking stick. I would wake up to find Vishwanatha Swami standing next to me and silently beckoning me to follow him. He would have me walk in silence to the cemetery near Yamalingam, 2 kilometers away from the ashram on the Pradakshina road. We both would sit on a raised platform behind which all the dead bodies are buried or cremated. He would draw my attention to the hill, and we would sit in silence for 2 or 3 hours and then walk back. This happened a few times. It was later that I understood this saint's insight. It is next to the Yamalingam that my house, Ananda Ramana, is now situated. These walks to the Yamalingam took place in the 1970s. In 1986, this house, which I live in now, the Ananda Ramana, was given to me, and I moved to stay permanently there in 1995. Just as Bhagavan cared for Vishwanatha Swami, Vishwanatha Swami, whom I cared for, took care of me and my spiritual practice. He has thus cared for many others, even as other devotees, graced by Bhagavan, have taken care of ever so many aspirants. It is thus the beautiful chain of grace that continues to link us to the truth that is ever present as Bhagavan. Vishwanatha Swami was a symbol of utter simplicity, and that is why I refer to him as the Superman of simplicity. When I was young, many visitors who were emotionally upset or mentally imbalanced would come to the ashram. I did not know how to handle them. Vishwanatha Swami would volunteer to take care of them. On many occasions, he would take them individually up the hill, around it, or to the temple, talking to them softly and seeing that their problems dissolve. His perfect way of imparting the nature of truth was by making them experience and transcend the limitations of mind and body. I had just read the Bible and I was talking to a friend about it. I did not like the story of Moses where he touched a rock with his staff and water flowed out from the middle of the rock. I said, at least they could have written that Moses touched the ground and that water flowed out. How can water come out of a rock? As I was saying this, a hand took hold of my arm. It was Vishwanatha Swami. He led me straight to Skanda Ashram put my hand between two rocks. It made me feel the natural spring oozing out from there. And then he said, Bhagavan brought me here, put my hand beneath the rocks, and showed me the water. Bhagavan touched this rock, and this water flows perennially. He solemnly added, never doubt a sage's statements or actions. How can you doubt that Moses was not endowed with that grace by God to bring water from that rock? Be careful, Ganesan. This corrected my spiritual thinking because he brought my mind back to the heart. If you again go to the mind, the intellect, you will continue to doubt how water can come out of a rock. Even now, if you go to Skanda ashram, though it has been hidden, you can put your hand and feel the spring coming right from the bottom of the rock and not from the sand. Moreover, below it lies another flat rock. Arthur Osborne managed the journal The Mountain Path single-handedly for 6 years. I was the managing editor when he suddenly passed away in 1970. I did not know what to do. Mrs. Osborne came forward saying, Ganesan, do not worry, I will take it over. For 2 years she shouldered that responsibility. However, because of ill health and other problems, she requested me to find someone better equipped to handle the responsibility. She brought bundles of unedited articles and put them on my table. I was completely perplexed. The next day, Vishwanatha Swami walked into my office and beckoned me. He spoke very sparingly. He took me to the forest behind the ashram, brought me back, and then took me to his room. He smiled at me and said, I feel instructed by Bhagavan to help you. I will take over the editorship. Honestly, Ganesan, I do not know the subtle art of editing, but it should not bother you. I will learn it. Send all those unedited articles to Professor K. Swaminathan, who is an expert editor. He edits with red ink. When the edited articles come in, I will study them and learn. Being a realized being, he picked it up in no time at all. Professor Swaminathan himself, the editor of a leading newspaper in India, much later said that, hailed by renowned publicists as the finest book editor of India, that Vishwanatha Swami's editing is remarkable. Coming to stay permanently in the ashram at a very young age gave me the advantage of staying in close contact with the old devotees. Their proximity gained for me the unseen spiritual benefit of affecting in me true all-around maturity. I could earn their wealth of jnana by just serving them. How true is the scriptural declaration that says, through service to Mahatmas, a seeker gains spiritual benefits which cannot be got by study of scriptures or by any other discipline. The greater reward that I got through such proximity was the possibility of my persuading them to write their reminiscences. Though I could not succeed in this with Vishwanatha Swami, I was immensely satisfied that I could persuade him to translate Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi into Tamil. One solid reason for my strong pleadings with him was that Sri Bhagavan had himself made Vishwanatha Swami translate most of the Sanskrit texts selected by him into Tamil. This was how, in the 1970s, the first volume of Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi was brought out in Tamil as the Bhagavat Vanchananavrutam. It was an instant success. After some time, the comprehensive volume 2 was published. The special feature of this book is that the Swami, having been present when the talks took place, has used mostly the very words used by Bhagavan. In 1979, both Vishwanatha Swami and I planned that for Bhagavan's birth centenary in 1980, we needed to work together and bring out issues dealing exclusively with the direct teachings of Bhagavan. Unfortunately, Vishwanatha Swami had a sunstroke. He came to my office and said, "I am ill, come to my room." I followed him into his room, where his behavior was alarmingly abnormal. He kept standing and sitting restlessly, like a clockwork toy. I was shocked and upset, not knowing what to do. And he said, "Do not pay attention to my body. I am inwardly in a blissful state. Attend to the inward state of mind. Send a telegram to my brother. I will not give you trouble to nurse me for long. The second day I will drop my body. Bury me in the simplest way. I want no rituals. But come in the evening at 4. I have a message for you." I went at the appointed time. In that seemingly restless state of standing and sitting, he again told me, "Do not pay attention to the body. Listen to what I am saying." And this is what Vishwanatha Swami's message was, and it has been guiding me very powerfully. He said, "The body is affected, perhaps the mind also, but the spirit, the heart, is unaffected, and the heart is speaking through me. Though there is so much of confusion, turbulence, and misery in manifestation, all of that belongs to the realm of the mind only. The ignorant mind split as object and subject. All experiences of life are relative, related to the experiencer, who is nothing but a shadow, having no intrinsic reality of his own. The reality in every person is the ultimate pure existence, which is the pure state of I am, the absolute awareness, which does not split into subject and object. It is the only thing that matters. If the ego and all its experiences are dismissed as passing shadows, the ever-present ultimate reality alone will be self-evident. If one even intellectually is convinced of this truth, one will gain detachment and mental peace. We should now and then stop for a while, stand aloof as the witness, and experience this immutable and immaculate awareness absolute, the still I am, which alone matters, which alone is, despite the manifestation of endless variety of experiences. The Buddha, Jesus Christ, Adi Shankara, and Bhagavan Ramana are a few standing monuments affirming the reality which is our very own being. The very sight of these pillars of light reminds us of this reality and brings us the peace that passes the mind's understanding. Only the finite mind, the me, has to be relinquished to merge and dissolve in the ever-present infinite reality of I am. I bless you, Ganesan. I prostrated before him, one of the blessed devotees who came to Arunachala, drawn by the grace of Bhagavan, basked in the sunshine of his presence, gained self-knowledge of I am, and guided earnest aspirants to gain it by self-inquiry. From him I learned that it is not enough if we just read some books and get convinced intellectually by the statements in them. I also learned that we must experience these teachings as states of one's own inner peace and stillness. Let us pay homage to Vishwanatha Swami by remembering a few verses from his Sri Ramana Ashtotaram, glorifying Sri Bhagavan. He says, prostrations to one who dwells ever in the self of pure awareness. Prostrations to one who is self-luminous like the sun, dispelling the darkness of ignorance. Prostrations to one who is the embodiment of unbroken awareness. Prostrations to one who is the light of awareness. Prostrations to one whose birth is for the purpose of spiritual awakening. Prostrations to one whose advent is for the giving of salvation to the whole world, to enable every being to recognize itself as the eternal I am. Though the literal meaning and purpose of the above verses looks like adoring Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi, the true inner meaning is much more significant and important. To pursue the inner path by staying in the heart as I am. Bhagavan said that one can write a whole biography out of these 108 verses. Vishwanatha Swami, as predicted by him, dropped his body fully conscious and peacefully on the second day. His samadhi inside the ashram close to Arunachala is a place of serenity, the same serenity his physical presence emanated all his life, a peace-filled boulder.